We are live. Welcome to the Earle Sports Bet Show. This is the UFC Vegas 33 edition. Yaya Hall taking on Sean Strickland. And this is a sketchy-ass card. Top to bottom. I mean, when we have Kyung Ho Kang taking on Ronnie Yaya in the co-main event, you know what this card's going to be offering. This card's going to be ugly, and it's going to be interesting, and it's going to provide hopefully a decent amount of spots to make some money. But should be a fun one. Last week was a decent card. I finished up a fifth of a unit, but it could have been much better. I did have Miranda Maverick, and I did have Kyler Phillips part of a parlay. So hopefully this week will be a little bit better, and should be a fun one. So we're going to get into it in a second here. Let me get the chat up on my phone, and we will be kicking it off here with a bout between Philip Rowe and Orion Kosei. Kosei weighed in at 170 and a half, made weight. And Philip Rowe weighed in at 173 and a half. He missed weight by 2.5 pounds for the welterweight division here. The over-under is 1.5 rounds for this one. You can get Orion Kosei at minus 165. It's a plus 145 the opposite way of Philip Rowe. And looking at this matchup here, Kosei coming in 7-0 in the UFC, 100% finish rate. He has 6 knockouts and 1 submission. No losses on his card. No losses on his record, my bad. And this is his UFC debut. He's going up against Philip Rowe, who is 7-3. He lost his only UFC fight. It was by decision. He does have a 100% finish rate in his wins. 3 knockouts and 4 submissions. And he's lost one out of 3 of his losses are by finish. He was knocked out once. He's gone to decision twice, including his first UFC fight. So looking at this fight here, I'm leaning towards the under 1.5 on this spot. I feel like this is a spot where we could see Kosei get the knockout. I'm leaning with Phil Rowe in this matchup, though, more than anything else. I think that potentially we see a first-round knockout here from Kosei, but I like Phil Rowe in this spot more. He came in, he's the bigger man. He has a 4-inch reach, 4-inch height advantage, a 9.5-inch reach advantage. And I think Philip Rowe is the spot on this fight. I probably will get around to betting him at plus 145. He did miss weight, but I think this is a spot where he kind of gave up. Where he wasn't going to make weight. And stuff like that. So I'm leading Philip Rowe in this spot. I do not have an official bet on this one quite yet. I might make it here. And I'm going to make it here. I can get Philip Rowe here for plus 144, looking to kick off the card here with an underdog cash. Plus 144. Philip Rowe is where we're going for our first fight and our first play. And I just bet it live right here. So let me add that into my plays. Phil Rowe, 144. So hopefully we can kick off the card here with a nice plus money casher with Philip Rowe. Can I join to talk to you about sports and stuff? Yeah, just DM me on Twitter, Nicholas_Earle, EARLE. And we can set something up where you can potentially join a stream one day. Moving on to our next fight, and this is one I want nothing to do with. Jinyu Frey takes on Ashley Yoder in this matchup. Minus 145 for Yoder, plus 125 for Frey. Over under of 2.5 rounds for this one. Looking at the description with these two fighters. Yoder coming in at 116 pounds for this fight. Frey coming in at 115 and a half. Yoder is going to have a 4-inch height advantage and a 4.5-inch reach advantage. I think those are huge advantages here. It is a striker versus grappler type of matchup. Yoder, the better striker, and Jin Frey, the better grappler, but Jin Frey does have striking. So it's going to be an interesting fight. I want nothing to do with this. I think it definitely does go 15 minutes, but that is reflected in the odds. The over-under of for the over-under of 2.5 rounds. Yeah, minus 400 for it to go over 2.5 rounds. Fight to go decision, minus 325. That may be a parlay piece. The over 2.5 could be a parlay piece as well. I think this fight goes to decision. And that's just about all I can tell you. I'll lean towards Ashley Yoder for this matchup here. I think that that's a better spot than Jin Frey, but this is a very low level women's fight. Jin Frey, a natural atom weight, 105 pounder. So it's a lead towards Yoder for this matchup. Am I getting involved in this fight? Absolutely not. If I'm doing a Hail Mary parlay with every single fight on the card, it's the over 2.5 rather than picking the side. But I'll lean towards Yoder. It would be lean towards the over 2.5. Of course, you don't want to do that because minus 400 is not something you want to pay. So passing on this fight, leaning towards Yoder, leaning towards the over. Obviously, the over is minus 400, so not getting involved on that one. Moving on, Kai Kamaka is taking on Danny Chavez in this one. Kamaka, a minus 115 favorite. It's a minus 104 the opposite way with Danny Chavez in this matchup. Over under 2.5 rounds. The over being minus 200. The under being at plus 160. And looking at this matchup, the specifics here, we got Chavez weighing in today 145.5 pounds, 144.5 for Kai Kamaka. Chavez will have a 1-inch height advantage. Kamaka will have a 2-inch reach and advantage for this one. Danny Chavez 11-4-0, 1-1 in the UFC, a 27% finish rate. He has 3 knockouts and 8 decision wins. On the with his losses, he's lost 3 out of his 4 fights from decision, and his only loss not by decisions, by submission. Both of his UFC fights have gone the full 15 minutes. On the other side, Kai Kamaka 8-4, 1-2 in the UFC, a 12.5% finish rate, 1 knockout and 7 decision wins. He does have half his losses by knockout, two losses by knockout, 2 losses by decision. 2 out of his 3 UFC fights have gone the full 15 minutes as well. And I'm leaning towards the over in this one, but I do have a play on this fight, and I'm going with the slight underdog in Danny Chavez for this one. I think that he's going to have the better striking. I think he's going to be able to win a split decision here. And Kai Kamaka, I feel like, is someone that will slow down at the end of this fight. And this is potentially a round 3 sprinkle spot for me with Danny Chavez. I think that potentially you can see a late knockout if Kai Kamaka starts to slow down. Danny Chavez, round 3 is a 14-1. I don't hate that at all. Maybe a quarter unit stab on that play. But I'm going with Danny Chavez, the slight underdog here in this matchup to get the job done here. So I'm going with two underdogs out of the first 3 fights. I think that this is a spot for Danny Chavez where he should be the favorite in this fight. So I'm going Chavez in this fight against Kai Kamaka. Next bout, we have Chris Gutenberg takes on Rafa Garcia. Garcia minus 310 for this fight. It's a plus 260 run back on Gutenberg. Over under 2.5 rounds, or over under 2.5 rounds, minus 125 to the over, minus 105 to the under. And Gutenberg weighing in at 156 pounds. Garcia 154, weighed in a full pound under the weight limit there. Gutenberg will have a 1-inch height advantage, and there will be no reach advantage on either side. They both have the same reach. And looking at this fight, Rafa Garcia is a huge favorite. He did lose his first fight in the UFC, but looking at this fight here, Gutenberg 14-4. He's 2-3 in the UFC with a 71.4% finish rate with 7 knockouts, 3 submissions, and 4 decisions. 100% of his losses are by finish, though. He's been knocked out once, and he's been submitted 3 times. And And 4 out of his 5 UFC fights have ended by finish. And on the other side, Rafa Garcia, he's 12-1. His only loss was his first fight in the UFC. He has a 72% finish rate. He's knocked out 1 guy, submitted 7, and gone 1 decisions against 3. His only loss was by decision. His only UFC fight has gone the full 15 minutes. But I do have a play on this one here. Let me see what the odds are on it now, because I got it at plus 150 earlier in the week. It is now dropped to a plus 115. So a massive line movement here, but I still like it. I think that Garcia just is able to go right through Gutenberg here. And I see a potential submission in order, but I'm going with Garcia inside the distance. I got it at plus 150. It's now a plus 115. I don't hate it. It's definitely worth it, considering he's a minus 300 favorite, and you're still getting plus money for him inside the distance by submission, plus 240. I don't hate that at all either. I think that he's able to get the job done here. And if you think, that I think this is a decent spot for it, for Rafa Garcia to get the job done. Inside the distance, plus 115. I beat the live move and I got it at plus 150 earlier in the week. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I do tweet out my official plays for UFC Vegas 33. I'm going to tweet out a few more tonight, and then before the card tomorrow, I'll tweet my entire card out, including all my round 3 sprinkles and stuff like that. So for this one, we're going with Rafa Garcia inside the distance here. I think he potentially snatches up a choke against Gutenberg and can get a submission against him tomorrow. Next one. This one's going to be a fun one here. We got Melsik Baghdasarian taking on Colin Aglin. Minus 140 for Baghdasarian. It's a plus 125 for Aglin run back. Over under of 2.5 rounds. And this one really confused me on this one. Over under is 2.5 rounds, with the over being juiced at minus 135, and it's a plus 105 towards the under. And this is a spot where Baghdasarian has been able to get a lot of his opponents out of there super quick, and having a over under of 2.5. I was expecting this one to be honestly a 1.5, because I think that round 1 TKO is in the cards here for Baghdasarian. I was looking at it earlier in the week. It was plus 400 for Baghdasarian by first round knockout, and it's now plus 400. I still bet it. I think that there's some value on it, because he's someone who goes out there. If Baghdasarian is going to win this fight, it's going to be by a really quick finish. And so I'm going with the under 2.5 rounds here in this one. And I'm also going with Baghdasarian, a quarter unit sprinkle at plus 400 for a round 1 knockout. He's had 4 of his 5 knockout wins have finished within a minute and a half of the fight. Baghdasarian has an 80% finish rate. Let's look at the specifics here, by the way. Aglin 8-1. This is his UFC debut. Baghdasarian, this is also his UFC debut. Aglin 8-1 with a 62.5% finish rate, 4 knockouts, 1 submission, 3 decision wins. His only losses by decision. This is his UFC debut. Baghdasarian 80% finish rate, 4 knockouts, and 1 decision win. And then his only loss is by submission. And I really like the under in this spot. I was looking at a bunch of different spots in this card because I really like on this fight. Baghdasarian is one of my favorite fighters of the night, potentially, to get a quick finish. If you guys play DFS, I think Baghdasarian should be a core to your lineup. I think he should be a core play to your lineups if you guys play DFS. Baghdasarian by knockout is a plus 210. Baghdasarian inside the distance is a plus 185. I think all those are have nice value on it. Minus 145 for him to win straight up. I think he's going to be on one of my top 2 rows for this card. I don't trust many fighters on this one, but Baghdasarian I feel like is one that could get a nice finish here in the first round. So I'm going with Baghdasarian in that fight to go under 2.5 rounds, as well as taking a quarter unit sprinkle on Baghdasarian by first round knockout. So that is where we are going with this one. I spelled his name wrong. Baghdasarian. Put it wrong on the first round knockout one. But that is where we're looking at for. Did it again. I can barely see what I'm typing, so it's difficult. There we go. Baghdasarian. There we go. Yeah. All right. Moving on to the next fight now. We have Jason Witt versus Bryan Barberena. Barberena minus 270 for this fight. It's a plus 230 run back on Jason Witt. Over under 2.5 rounds in this one, with the over being a plus 120, the under being a minus 150. And this fight, I understand why it's a minus 150 for the under. I really do. Because if you guys are following me on Twitter, you know exactly where I am on this fight. I'm on the side of Bryan Barberena. Looking at the specifics here, Bryan Barberena, 15-7. He's 6-5 in the UFC. He has an 80% finish rate with 10 knockouts, 2 submissions, and 3 decision wins. 42.9 of his losses are by finish, with 2 knockouts, 2 knockouts, 1 submission, and 4 decisions. And 6 out of his 11 UFC finishes have finished, with 5 of them ending by knockout, 1 of them ending by submission, and 5 of them by decision. And on the other side, Jason Witt, 18-7. He's 1-2 in the UFC, where 66% finish rate, 3 knockouts, 8 submissions, 6 decisions, and 1 DQ. And all 3 of his UFC fights have finished, and that's because 100% of his losses are by finish. This guy has one of the weakest chins in the UFC. He's been knocked out 5 times, and he's been submitted twice. And in his last fight, he got knocked out by a jab by someone, Seisenberger, who wasn't really known precisely as a power puncher. So that's very concerning for Jason Witt here. So I have 2 plays on this one. We're going with Bryan Barberena inside the distance. I got this at even money. It's now a minus 120. So some money has come in on that. Barberena inside the distance at minus 120. I think that he absolutely gets it done within 15 minutes. Jason Witt is not someone I particularly trust. I also have a quarter unit here on Barberena by a first round knockout. Round 1 TKO. I got it at plus 400. It's now at plus 325. So that is where I'm looking at for this one here. I've beat a couple live movements here, and of course I clicked off of it and it got rid of it. But this is one of those spots where I did beat a live movement once again with this one, because I bet it a few days ago. So Barberena inside the distance minus 120, and then Barberena by round 1 TKO is a plus 325, and I put a quarter unit on the plus 325, which actually for me was a plus 400. So it was a quarter unit to win a unit. So this is a spot where I'm looking at Barberena here inside the distance and round 1 TKO. Appreciate it. Fade. What are we fading? Samuel Harrison, what are we fading? Are we fading Barberena? Are we fading me in general? What are we fading? All right, next matchup here, we have Zaruk Adashev taking on Ryan Benoit. Ryan Benoit at a minus 130 for this fight. Now down to a minus 125. It's a plus 105 run back for Adashev. Over under 2.5 rounds for this one. Minus 165 to the over, plus 135 to the under. Looking at the specifics of this one, this was supposed to be the opening bout. We've had I think 4 cancellations for this one, for this card. And looking at the specifics here, Ryan Benoit 10-7, 3-5 in the UFC, a 90% finish rate though, 8 knockouts, 1 submission, and 1 decision win on his record, and only 28.6% of his losses by finish. 2 times he's been submitted. He's lost decisions in 5 fights. Half of his fights have gone to the judges in the UFC, have gone to the scorecards, 2 knockouts, 2 submissions, and 4 decisions. Adashev 3-3 heading into this card. And he's 0-2 in the UFC, 66% finish rate, and 66% of his finishes by losses by finish. He's knocked out 2 people, and he's won a decision once, and then he has 1-1 on his losses. 1 knockout loss, 1 submission loss, and 1 decision loss. Half of his UFC fights have ended by finish. One time he got knocked out and he lost a decision in his other fight. And this one really puzzled me, why someone 3-3 and an 0-2 UFC record is in the UFC to begin with, and then you realize this card's a very sketchy card. So for this one, I'm going with the fighter that has a little bit more experience here, with Ryan Benoit. I feel like this is a nice bounce back spot. He weighed in at 126 pounds today. He actually first weighed in at 126 and a half. Then he needed the box of shame, I guess you would call it, to make weight. But he made weight, which is good considering the last time he struggled to make weight. And this is a spot where I think that he should be able to get the job done here against Adashev. And I'm going with Benoit here, and I put a quarter unit down on Benoit, or was it a half a unit or was it a quarter unit? I'm trying to see when half a unit down on Benoit here by knockout. I think that potentially he can get a knockout against Adashev, someone who has very little experience and someone who I'm not looking to particularly back here. So I'm going with Ryan Benoit in this fight. I'm also going Ryan Benoit by knockout at plus 350 here, half a unit down on it. And I think this is a spot where Benoit gets the job done and he proves himself. He has the higher amount of experience. He's got 8 fights in the UFC compared to 2 for Adashev, and I feel like this is a spot where he gets the knockout. He has 8 knockouts out of his 10 wins on his record. So I like Ryan Benoit here straight up, and then half a unit sprinkle on the knockout prop. Next fight here, we have Nicholas Stolze taking on Jared Gooden. It's a minus 190 for Gooden, or for Stolze. It's a plus 165 for Gooden, and over under 2.5 rounds for this one. And I'm going to be completely honest for this fight. I didn't do any research on this one because I had Nicholas Stolze and Monir Lazez handicapped. Gordon is a late replacement, made weight 170.5 pounds or 171 pounds. Stolze 170.5 pounds, 1-inch height advantage and 2-inch reach advantage for Stolze in this one. And this is a fight I'm just staying off of. I feel like this is a spot where I don't need to force anything here. I don't know how Jared Gordon is going to look after coming in on 3 days' notice. This could be a potential spot where I look to sprinkle a round 3 prop on Nicholas Stolze here to potentially get the job done. I think Stolze gets the job done here. Gooden coming in, basically fighting for his career. Stolze round 3 is 12-1. I feel like that could potentially be worth a quarter unit sprinkle. But this is one I'm not getting involved in here at all. Just because of the short notice nature of Jared Gooden in this spot. So no action on this one. We have 3 fights left on this card. Moving on here, Gloria DePaula taking on Cheyenne Bays. It's a minus 155 for Bays, minus 155 for Bays. It's a plus 140 run back here on, or plus 135 run back on Gloria DePaula in this matchup. Looking at the over-under is 2.5, with it heavily being juiced to the over, and that's because this fight's going to go the full 15 minutes. Gloria Gloria DePaula, 5-3, 0-1 in the UFC. A 60% finish rate, though. 3 knockouts and 2 decision wins. All 3 of her losses are by decision. Her only UFC fight has gone the full 15 minutes. On the other side here, Cheyenne Bays is 5-2 with an 0-1 UFC record. She lost to Ruiz in her last fight here. She has a 20% finish rate with only 1 knockout and 4 decision wins in her career. Both losses are by decision, and her only UFC fight had gone the full 15 minutes. This is another fight where if I had to pick every fight and put it into a Hail Mary parlay, I'm just going to click the over 2.5 and move on. Fight goes to decision, minus 300. Awfully juicy, but I think it goes to full 15 minutes. That's the thing. I would look maybe at Gloria DePaula by decision in this spot. I don't trust Cheyenne Bays. And I think that this is a spot where this is a dogger pass. There's no way I'm laying minus 160 on Cheyenne Bays. And I don't want to bet this fight at all. I feel like both the women's fights on this card are low-level, sketchy-ass fights. And it's just not a spot where I'm looking to get to. And considering this is on the main card, that shows how the strength of this card really is. We're going to talk crap about this card, and this card's going to absolutely kick ass, though. And we're going to get a lot of good knockouts and submissions and stuff like that. But I'm not touching this fight. All right, moving on to our co-main event of the evening, Rani Yaya and Kyung Ho Kang. Kang is now a minus 116. It's a minus 104 on the opposite side with Rani Yaya. Over under 2.5 rounds for this one, with the over being a minus 155 and the under being a plus 125. Rani Yaya is really a one-dimensional fighter. That's the problem with him. But looking at the specifics on this one, both fighters weighed in at 136 pounds. Kang with a 3-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. But you know where that doesn't matter? Where Rani Yaya is going to try to take this fight. He's going to try to take it down to the mat. And this guy can, I think, choke anyone out in this division. Rani Yaya, or looking at the records here, Kang is 17-8 with a 6-2 UFC record, 76.5% finish rate with two knockouts, 11 submissions, and 4 decision wins. And 37.5% of his losses are by finish. He's been knocked out once. He's been submitted once. And one of his fights have ended in a DQ, with 5 of his fights ending in a decision loss. 3 out of his 8 fights have ended by finish, with all 3 of those being submissions and the other 5 being decisions. Looking on the other side, Rani Yaya here, 27-10-1, 12-5-1 in the UFC. 77.7% of his fights have finished by he has a 77.7% finish rate. That's what I was trying to say there. With no knockouts, 21 submissions, and 6 decision wins. This is an absolute spot where if you're looking to bet Rani Yaya, don't look at the minus 104. Just look at him by submission. This is a spot where I think either fighter can finish by submission, to be completely honest. If you want Kang by submission, 10-1 for plus 1,000 for Kang by submission, where Rani Yaya is 30% of his losses are by finish, though. 2 knockouts, 1 submission, and 7 decisions. But Kang has 11 submissions on his record. I don't think he's going to want to take it to the mat with Rani Yaya here. Yaya by submissions, a plus 225. So if you're looking to bet Rani Yaya here, just take the plus 225 on the submission prop. I'm personally staying away from this fight, leaning towards the under at plus 125. I feel like Rani Yaya is one of those guys who can snatch up a submission at any given minute. So it'd be a lean towards the under 2.5 for me here. I'm not getting involved on this fight, though, which will lead us to the main event of the evening here. Uriah Hall taking on Sean Strickland in this matchup here. Minus 200 for Hall, plus 170 minus 200 for Strickland, plus 170 for Uriah Hall. Over under 3.5 rounds is the total for this fight. You can get the over under 4.5 here, the under at minus 150, and I'm leaning towards the under in this fight. I think we see a finish in this one. Looking at the specifics here, if I can flip my page, Uriah Hall weighed in at 185.5 pounds. Sean Strickland weighed in at 185. Hall with a 3.5-inch reach advantage. Strickland won the 1-inch height advantage for this one. This is going to be a fun fight. We have someone who can put on a ton of volume in Strickland, but then we have the other side of Uriah Hall, who has that death touch. He can knock out almost anyone if he lands a shot flush and clean. And for me on this fight, looking at the specifics here, Uriah Hall 17-9, a 10-7 record in the UFC, an 82.4% finish rate, 12 knockouts, 2 submissions, and 3 decisions. 44.4% of his losses are by finish. He has been knocked out 4 times. 11 out of his 17 wins have ended in TKO with 11 knockouts and 6 decisions, no submissions, either being finished by a submission or getting a submission in the UFC so far for Uriah Hall. On the opposite side, Sean Strickland, he's 23-3, 10-3 in the UFC with 61% finish rate with 10 knockouts on his record, 4 submissions, and 9 decisions. 33% of his losses are by decision here, with one knockout loss and 2 submission loss or decision losses. 5 of his 13 fights have ended by finish. 8 of his fights have gone to the scorecards here, but I don't see this fight going 25 minutes. I'm leaning under 4.5 at -150. I'm leaning under 3.5 at -115. I think a third round finish is in the cards here for this fight, and I like Sean Strickland in this one. I'm going Sean Strickland inside the distance. I got it at around +135. It is currently, I believe, still probably a +135 because I just bet this not too long ago. +135, Sean Strickland inside the distance. I'm thinking a second or third round knockout for him, just by like volume and being able to get to Uriah Hall and pressure him. So that's where I'm looking at for this final fight here. We're going Sean Strickland inside the distance at +135. So we made it. We made it through the whole card here. We're going to go over a little bit of a recap, and then we're going to head on out for this one. We're looking at Philip Rowe at +144 to kick off the night. We're looking at Denny Chavez at -105. Rafa Garcia inside the distance. We got it's a +115 now. I got it at +150. Baghdasarian under 2.5 rounds at +105. I got it at +110 personally. And Baghdasarian round 1 TKO at 4-1, a quarter unit on that one. Then we're looking at Barbilla inside the distance at -120, along with the round 1 knockout prop, +325. I got it at +400 early in the week. I put a quarter unit down on that. Ryan Benoit to win his fight and him by knockout at a quarter unit. And we're going to add in Strickland here, which I noticed a lot of people are all over the dog on this fight here. And I can see it with Uriah Hall. He has that puncher's chance. But at the end of the day, I think Strickland's the better overall fighter. And we're going with Strickland here inside the distance at +135 to finish up this card. But that's going to just about wrap it up for the stream. Next week, we will have UFC 265. I want to say 265, headlined by Derek Lewis and Cyril Gahn. Unfortunately, we will not have Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena, the Venezuelan vixen. That's what I was trying to say. I was trying to say Venezuelan Pena, and I was like, that's not right. But yeah, we will have the pay-per-view next card, which is going to be a fun one. So, but that's going to just about do it for this one. This is going to be a sketchy card. Tread lightly, guys. I will be posting my full card on Twitter tomorrow before the fights start. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. Thank you guys always for watching. Be sure to get this stream a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on those post notifications so you guys are notified every single time we go live, which is every single morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But that's going to just about wrap it up. My name is Nicholas Earle, and this has been another edition of the Earle Sports Bet Show, UFC Vegas 33, Strickland versus Hall. Thank you guys, and good luck.